Okay, well, many thanks for coming. Welcome to this fantastic meeting hall. It's quite an intimidating sort of place, and I've just noticed there's a hammer there, so I'll be on my best behaviour with regards to doing this presentation and introducing these great speakers we have. So we have a host of speakers for you. We have the people who organise and run this event hall and this workspace. So we have Dominic Johnson, who's the project manager of the town hall. He will be doing a brief presentation very shortly. We have James Reed and his colleague, who will be also talking to you very briefly, and you will have opportunity to speak to them afterwards in the networking. And we have a main presenter, Natalie Sharp from Sharp Thinking Marketing, who is going to be doing the main presentation with regards to how to get your business noticed. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dominic Johnson, who is the project manager for the town hall. Please, thank you.
Hi. Hello there. Yes, as Brian said, I work for Town Square. We won the tender to turn the town hall into a co-working event office space. We're going to do tours later, so I don't need to talk anymore. We basically have many different desk options. What we're doing, we're launching around February, so we've got some special offers and desks and things. And if you pick up one of these leaflets, it'll give you a free pass for a day. We've got event spaces from this, which are a couple of hundred, going down to 2 people, to meeting spaces. And starting in around March time, we'll be building a nice cafe, funky cafe downstairs, so you can have nice meetings and be a nice local place to join and meet and do business. Anyway, I'll be hanging around at 3 o'clock. You're all welcome to have a tour of the current wing that we've got ready. So hopefully see some of you then. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Yeah, as I said, it will be available afterwards for tours and so on and so forth. So I'd like to straight away lead into our second presentation. It's from James Reed, who's the Senior Economic Development Officer. Please, James, thank you very much.
Well, good to see you all. It's good to see some familiar and some not so familiar faces here. So as Brian said, I'm the Senior Economic Development Officer at Tunbridge Wells Borough Council, which means that me and my colleague Sarah-Louise, we look after business services, whether that's relating to straight business support and business access to council services, or visitor economy and everything we offer in terms of promoting new businesses and visitor destinations. What I wanted to briefly touch on today before we hand over to Natalie, who's going to give a really great presentation on how marketing can help your business grow. I just wanted to make you aware of some of the literature we got on the side here. So you all in West Kent, as part of this West Kent event, so Sevenoaks, Tunbridge and Tunbridge Wells businesses can all access our great programme, which is fully funded by the council, free of use to you. You can access mentoring, you can come along to events like this, and you can speak to some of the experts from Smarter Society who are running sessions as part of the West Kent Business Support Programme. And I would encourage you to speak to Brian and Vicky in the networking period afterwards, if you are looking to get involved in that way. In terms of council opportunities, we have something called the West Kent Rural Grant Scheme. Now, I'm afraid to disappoint those from Royal Tunbridge Wells here, but this is funding we've been given by government for rural areas. And when you think rural areas, you might think, oh, that's just for farms and agricultural businesses. But this is for high streets up and down the towns and villages across our borough, across Tunbridge and Malling Borough and Sevenoaks Borough. So if you're a business from Paddock Wood, Cranbrook or Hawkhurst who's come today, or a business from Hildenborough, West Malling, Snodland, somewhere like that, or you've come all the way from Swanley and Sevenoaks, there are grants here, capital grants of up to £24,999, which you can access right now. And if you're interested at all in that, come and speak to me after. There's a poster with a QR code with more details, so do come and find me. There is also much more you can find on our business portal on the council's website. So you go to tunbridgewells.gov.uk and there is a header on there where you can see to access council services. Now, I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but I'm just going to quickly pass over to my colleague, Sarah-Louise, who does some really great work around promoting businesses and working with visitor destinations. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everyone in the room and online. I mean, James sort of, mentioned everything we do. But I just wanted to specifically mention the visitor economy. So in Tunbridge Wells, and if anyone is from Sevenoaks and Tunbridge, I'd be glad to put you in touch with the relevant colleagues. But we lead on a visitor economy, and we have a website and several social media channels. And if you're interested, there's leaflets here where you can have more information about these. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, sir. Yeah, for the people online, we will share these links later on. We'll make sure that they're available to you via the links. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Natalie Sharp from Sharp Thinking Marketing, who is going to take you through a fantastic presentation. Natalie, if you'd like to come over, thanks very much.
Just going to move this chair, if that's all right. So get that.
Again.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much to everyone that's coming along today. I do recognise some familiar faces, so it's great to see so many people here today. When West Kent Business asked me to come along, we did discuss perhaps doing more of a workshop style, but because of the number of people coming along, which is fantastic, I have adapted it, so it is more of a presentation today, but there's lots and lots of useful tips, which I hope you're going to take away. So, what I'm going to do is, for those that don't know me, just give a bit of an intro so you know who I am and what my background is. And I'll go through some of the key challenges we face as well as businesses, because it's really, really tough to make decisions every day as to what to prioritise, what to invest in, and what not to focus on. And what I'm going to do is outline 10 practical tips for you to look at and focus on for your marketing, and how to really get traction and get exposure of your business. And there'll be time for questions at the end. So I've got 25 years experience in marketing. I'm a sales and marketing consultant based here in Tunbridge Wells, and my business is 6 years old, more or less to the date, and I've worked with 30 businesses since setting up Sharp Thinking, and they vary enormously in terms of type of business that I've worked with, ranging from coaches and quantity surveyors to construction companies and artists and care homes. So my experience and background really do vary. I've worked with blue chip organisations like British Airways and Vodafone, through to startup organisations, through to advertising agencies in London. So that has really kind of helped shaped my approach with how I work with businesses today. And I've been a business mentor as well for the last 4 years with the Kent Foundation, which some of you may be familiar with. And I've been shortlisted as well for a series of both national and local awards. And these are just some of the highlights. I'm not going to go through all of these today, but I've been really, really fortunate to have worked with so many wonderful businesses and people over the last few years. And as I said, I've worked with a real mixture of organisations, from some of these logos you may recognise: Simmons, school uniform provider, to Body Mentors, who are a fitness provider in Hildenborough, to the Financial Times, which obviously very, very different kettle of fish. So before we start, what I want you to do is just to think about, as we go into this, what do you consider your most successful way to get your business noticed? So this isn't a test at all. So I just want you to make a mental note, or perhaps if you've got a paper and pen, just to have a think about and write that down. And we'll come back to that at the very end. So what common challenges do we face day to day? Well, there's certainly a lot that we need to think about. Time is really, really precious to us, and we need to make every single minute count. So we need to do the right things that are going to have the most impact on our business. And it will really very much vary from organisation to organisation. And we need to make sure that we're spending money in the right areas as well. And it can be hard to actually understand, okay, well, we've got all of these choices available. Where do I spend my budget, especially if you're working to a tight budget as well? And when it comes to marketing, it can be really hard to work out how to actually prioritize things. What's the right order to approach things? And then there's all the technological updates as well that we need to keep up to speed with. Marketing can be seen to be quite risky as well. It can be hard sometimes to understand, is it working? How do I calculate and measure the marketing? And it can be seen to be risky because sometimes it takes a long time to actually see the uplift and the impact that it's having. And then there's all the jargon and acronyms that are used. We are bombarded with choice. And as a small business, we're extremely lucky because a lot of this we have access to and we can use for free so many of these different platforms and channels. But how do we decide which social media platforms should we use? Should we invest in PR? Should we use Google Ads? Should we use email marketing software? Should we go to trade events? The list goes on and on and on. So it can be really hard as a small business owner, particularly if you're a one-man band, to work out which of these channels and techniques should we use. So moving on to my first tip, be original and stand out. So we all know and are told we need to be original and stand out, but what do we mean by this and why is it important? Well, our attention span isn't very long at all. So on average, it's 8 seconds. And in fact, a goldfish is 9 seconds. So we need to make sure that we cut through really quickly. And there's also a lot of research which supports the fact that people are willing to pay more for brands that stand out and are different. So we can be memorable in lots of different ways. We can do it through our brand identity. So we can do it through our logos. We can do it from the colors that we use. We could do it through our photography style. We can do it through our typography. But we can also do it with our unique selling point. We can do it with how we communicate our offering and our products and services. But we can also do it day to day in our marketing as well. We can do it through our messaging. We can do it through our creative execution and the channels that we decide to use. So have a think about, are you original? How do you stand out from everyone else? So I've just got an example that I wanted to share with you. So this is a business that I worked on some time ago now, so over 5 years ago, called Wow Books. And I created the brand and launched it to market. So it's a business-to-business brand in the consumer publishing world. And we needed a really innovative way to launch the brand with a very small and focused campaign as well in terms of the size of the audience. So we wanted to reach approximately 50 consumer publishers around the world, and we wanted to target chief executives. So a very difficult audience to reach. So how do we do that? So we did it through innovative direct marketing. So I've got a sample of the actual pack here. And you can see straight away that you open it up and you're probably thinking, this is different. I've not received anything like this before. So it immediately gets your attention. You then open it up, and I'm afraid the battery has run out, so it will not show, but a video immediately is displayed, introducing you to the brand and talking you through what it's all about, what's the ethos behind it, and how it would benefit your organisation. But not only that, you'll see there were 2 very striking books inside with your name on it. You then opened the books And there's a series of beautiful imagery talking you through the product and how this could work for you, and then some of the features and benefits as well. So I wanted to share this with you because you can see it's very different. It's eye-catching and it's likely to be remembered as well by the recipient. So there's lots of things you can do in terms of the channels that you use and your messaging. It doesn't necessarily need to be really expensive, but there are simple things you can do just to have that cut through that you need. Number 2, have a consistent brand. So brand consistency is extremely important, and it's also linked to an increase in revenue and profits as well. So brand consistency isn't just about templates and logos. There's a lot more to it than that. And you need to make sure that the combination of your offering, your messaging, the way that you communicate in terms of design as well, and your perspective on things all align. So they're all working together. And it's a lot harder to achieve day to day, certainly as a small business owner as well. You don't have the luxury of a brand manager that's checking through everything and giving you guidelines for absolutely everything that you're creating day to day. But inconsistent branding confuses people. It's harder to process things. And if people can't figure things out straight away, they're going to move on. So you've lost that opportunity. So some simple things that you can do to help this. The first is to audit your brand. How many of you have done a brand audit of your business? Hands up if you have. Fantastic. So this needn't be anything complicated at all. So I would suggest doing it perhaps every couple of years, every year. Fantastic. If you're producing a lot of material, bring everything together, take screen grabs of your website, your social media posts, any brochures or materials you've produced, and look at it all together. Does it look like it's all a part of the same family? Does it complement each other? Is it all aligned? So it's quite a useful exercise that I would recommend. So other things you can do are to create brand guidelines. Hands up if you've got brand guidelines. Fantastic. Well, brand guidelines are relevant for every single business. So don't think I'm too tiny to have brand guidelines at all. They only need to be a few pages long, and they should cover things like using your logo, your strapline, your color palette, your typography, and your tone of voice. How do you communicate? Is it first person? Is it third person? Are you humorous? Are you succinct? So all of these things which really help to build a brand and achieve that consistency. Brand templates as well. I'm sure most of you have brand templates. And with platforms like Canva, there's no reason why any of us shouldn't have brand templates. And we should make sure that we're using them across all of our different marketing channels to help create a consistent look and feel. And the final thing is a style guide. Who has a style guide? Who's heard of a style guide? Excellent, 1 or 2. So a style guide communicates the rules of your brand in print. So it will look at what is the use of bullet points? What is the use of fonts? What's the use of capitalization? So all of these things, again, which you're probably doing day to day, particularly if you're generating a lot of content in the form of blogs and social media posts. But it's worth just spending a few hours trying to capture all of these things. And as you start to use agencies and freelancers and recruit a team as well, it will really help to ensure that everyone is working to the same thing. And I've got here a great example of a brand, a small business as well, that I think has achieved a really strong, consistent look. So the business allotment I've known for a very, very long time. And in fact, I've worked with them recently on my business as well. And I've taken here some screen grabs you can see of their newsletter and some of their social media posts. So you can see straight away that they've achieved consistency. But not only that, in terms of the colours and the fonts, they've actually taken it a stage further here in terms of the way that they communicate. The language is very consistent throughout all of their communication, and in terms of the type of content that they generate as well. So they're very humorous, they're very smart, and you can just see that straight away from everything that they do. Number 3, build momentum. So what do we mean by this? So in marketing, we have something called the rule of 7. So on average, it takes someone 7 times to actually remember something and take it in. So that's probably a lot more than you're currently doing. So don't underestimate how many times you need to repeat a message, and you need to build upon it as well. We also have something called the dovetail effect as well. So the more that our potential audience are being exposed to our brand in different environments, so it might be first thing in the morning, they check their emails and there's a newsletter from you. They then go onto social media and they can see there's a post from you. They then go into the coffee shop and they see there's a leaflet from you or a poster in store. And then they go home, there's a leaflet that's been dropped through the door. So all of those things are going to help to reinforce you. They're likely to remember you and then act upon it. The other thing I would say is it's really, really important that you always have a constant presence. You need to have a baseline activity going all the time. Do not stop and start things. Otherwise, you're losing that momentum and you're having to start all over again. It's much more important to have a kind of steady level of presence all year long than have this mad flurry, perhaps in January, and then nothing for a year. Number 4, show the human side. So I know, and you're probably thinking, yes, I know I'm told this a lot, but people buy into people. That's a fact. And as a small business, it's really key to show our faces. Now, a lot of the businesses that I work with don't feel comfortable doing that. That's absolutely fine. They're quite private individuals and they don't want to show their face and reveal all about themselves. But what you do need to do is have someone in the business that's likely to front it and be the face behind it. So it doesn't have to be the founder of the business. It can be someone that feels comfortable with showing their face or talking to camera. And you need to have a consistent spokesperson as well. You need to be relatable. So showing behind the scenes content really helps to do that. So it could be an event you've been to, like today. It could be a team meeting. It could be traveling to that meeting or to that conference. It could be, if you're working in a factory and or a shop, setting up, closing up at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what it is at all. It's just important you come across as relatable, that you're not this faceless brand. The other thing you can do is build on your about section on your website. So I meet with so many businesses, and one of the first things I do is to look at their website and audit it. And very often there will be just a couple of very, very generic paragraphs in that section. Now I'm talking, for example, I'm a startup community-focused organization. I have strong customer service, and I like working with supporting local organizations. Obviously, that's a pretty bad example, but it's very generic. What does that say about that business? It says absolutely nothing. What you need to communicate is what led you to set up your organization. What are your values? What do you stand for? What do you feel really strongly about? You need to somehow show that passion, show off your expertise. And finally, also use staff in your post. So if you don't employ any staff, you can also do that through work with day to day. So you could be showing, for example, suppliers that you work with, and anyone else that you come into contact with. Sorry, there was an echo.
Oh, beautiful.
It's definitely. I think someone's not on mute. Thank you. That confused me then.
They've only just joined.
Okay. So I just wanted to share with you a really great example of how a brand has achieved this. So this is Action Point. They've been a client of mine now for a number of years. They are a Kent-based business. They're a packaging company. And they really go the extra mile to show off their staff and show how much fun they have today, and you know what great sort of team spirit they have. They don't just have a picture of Employee of the Month, as so many businesses do. They take it a stage further. So there's 4 pages here, and they have gone to a lot of trouble to creatively show why this person is Employee of the Month. Over Christmas, they raided, I think it was I can't remember if it was Quality Street or Celebrations, I think it's Celebrations, to ask their staff. So I think they interviewed 5 members of staff, what was their favourite chocolate and their least favourite thing. So you're probably thinking, well, what's the point of that? What's the relevance? It's just having a bit of fun. It's showing personality, and it's going to get traction online. People love to see these kind of things. And then you've got the more traditional team shots of company meetings, away days, and these get great responses online. And then it's important that all of this is shown on your website as well. So not only do they have individual profiles with a nice quote on every single team member with a professional headshot, but they also then have them interacting, working day to day. What's their ethos? What's their company culture? So it's a great way to really show that human side of the business and get across their brand personality. Number 5, exploiting the power of video. So 1 minute of video is worth 1.8 million words. We know that video has exploded over the last few years, and it's extremely popular in terms of our daily consumption of it, but also in terms of the results that it generates for businesses. Over 3/4 of us prefer to learn about a brand through a video, and customers retain 95% of the information they see on a video. That's because most of us are visual learners. And over 80% of marketeers say that video has helped them to increase traffic to their website, increase dwell time, so that is the amount of time that people are spending on your website, and also helped with their audience's understanding of their products and their services. So it's multi-purpose, it's multifunctional, it has so many benefits. And the most common types of videos are explainer videos, and they're a lot shorter than we probably think they are. So videos that get the highest engagement are under a minute long. And I've got some examples here again to share with you. So 2 very, very different examples, but what all of them do is they do evoke an emotional connection with the individual or with the business. But they're also versatile. You're going to get a lot of value from them. You can use them on your website, you can use them in your newsletters, you can use them as part of the sales process, you can use them on social media, of course. They have longevity, they'll last for years, unlike a social media post that may only last less than 24 hours typically. And they have huge SEO value, so SEO being search engine optimization. The search engines absolutely love video. So you can see there's so many reasons to invest in it. So the first example is of James Vogel. He is an online business mentor that works with online fitness businesses. And he has a strong following on Instagram, and he produces lots of very regular bite-sized tips to his audience and to his followers, and they're very, very direct, and And he really shows how passionate he is, and he will go the nth degree, and he will really motivate his clients to get results. And then we've got a very different example. We've got Dancing Queen Admin Services. I'm not sure any of you have seen this lady on LinkedIn. So she just has a bit of fun. So quite often she records a video on a Friday and sends it, puts it out on LinkedIn and TikTok, and just has a dance. You can't help but smile. And she's relatable. She is memorable. So it's definitely a way to get your business noticed. Number 6, demonstrate credibility. We all know that we need to be credible and show off our expertise. So how do we do that? So there's lots of different ways that you can do this. The first one is through leveraging in PR. So how many of you are already, hands up, if you do PR as a business? Well, hopefully you will be after today. So don't think as a small business, oh, we do have one in the room, don't think that small business isn't relevant or accessible to you. There's so much that you can do yourself. So the first thing is see if you can speak at events. So whether they are trade shows, local events, whatever it is that's relevant to your business and your customers. Another thing would be to start thinking about if you've got any interesting stories. So if you're launching a really interesting product, if you have some really incredible results that you think would be beneficial or interesting to share with people, or perhaps you have won an award or you've got a new accreditation. So have a think about what you have coming up. You do need to have a strong story to tell. If so, then draft a press release. So dependent on your audience, you could send it out to the local media. If, however, you don't tend to work so much with local businesses, then send it out nationally or to the trade press as well. So the more times you do this, the better you will become. And if it's not published, don't think, oh, that didn't work. The point is you're having a go at it, and then you've actually got that press release drafted as well. So you could repurpose that. You could turn it into a blog post. You could put it on your website. You could send it out via a customer newsletter. So you're going to get a lot of value from it. And PR is typically worth a lot more than advertising as well. Slightly controversial thing to say, but there are lots of different ways that you can measure PR. And one of those ways was to measure what's called the equivalent advertising value of PR. And it was said to be worth 3 times more than advertising. And that's because someone else is writing about your business, not you. So it seemed to be more credible, more trustworthy. Another thing you can do is to show off your accreditations and your qualifications. It's amazing how many people I speak to and how many businesses I work with, and they've got this qualification, they've done this course, but they haven't told anyone about it at all. They haven't got it on their LinkedIn profile. They haven't got it on their email signature. It doesn't appear anywhere on their website. So if you have all of these wonderful courses and accreditations, don't be proud to share it with everyone. You need to tell everyone about it. You are more than qualified to do this job and to work and operate your business. So you need to make sure that everyone knows about it. So you're telling them. The other thing to do is to collect customer testimonials and reviews. So I can see a lot of people are nodding their heads. We all know we need to do this, but it's hard to do, isn't it? It's a lot harder than it seems. And so there are lots of things you can do. The first one is build it into the customer journey. It needs to be something that happens systematically. So when you deliver a project, or if a customer receives a delivery, they then receive a timely message from you asking for a review. And don't just verbally ask them or send them an email to ask for, please, can you send me a review? Send them a link. And I would strongly advise using Google as well to capture these reviews. It doesn't always work and it can be tricky. So always have a backup. So give them a secondary option, which perhaps may be to have a LinkedIn recommendation or just to email the review to you. And you need to make sure that you're doing this all the time. So there is no point just collecting reviews once every couple of years. It needs to be going on all the time behind the scenes. And if someone does create a review, make sure you respond to it as well, especially if it's on Google. Case studies take reviews just that stage further. So they come across as really credible and showing off your expertise. They also convince prospects as well. They understand a bit more about you and what it's like to work with you. So hands up if you've written case studies before. Great. So for those that haven't or not sure what they are, what they typically do is show what was the brief or the challenge that you were given, what was the process that you went through with the customer or the client, what was the impact, what results did it generate. Now, sometimes it's hard to get that information, and a lot of that information is sensitive and your clients don't want it. So you need to think, okay, what can we do to get around this? So always come up with a backup plan and an alternative to make sure that you can start to get these case studies underway. And I think that case studies are relevant to a lot of different types of businesses. And I've got an example that I want to share with you in a moment. So I don't think they're just relevant to business organisations. Finally, guest blogging. So guest blogging is a great thing to do. It has lots and lots of benefits. So what I suggest is that you think about who else can you write blogs for. So that might be other businesses, perhaps in your supply chain, other like-minded local businesses, if the local audience is your customer base, and think about topics that you can tap into. So the reason that this is a great thing to do is you want to obtain backlinks. So search engines like high quality backlinks from one website to your website. So a blog, and in fact PR, is a great way to achieve that. It also comes across as credible that you're well connected as well, and it gives you content that you can then use in your channels. But you can then reciprocate it. So invite the same business, the same person, or other organizations to write for you. So again, you come across as connected and highly regarded. So it's worth thinking about. It's not necessarily the most important thing to do in terms of credibility, but it does serve many purposes. As I was saying, it's great for SEO. So I've got two very different examples here. The first one is a photography training business, and this lady uses PR fantastically, and she repurposes it. So that's why I wanted to show you this especially. So when you generated the PR, sometimes it's hard to know how to use it. So this is a great way to show that you can present the actual coverage in a really creative way. So this screen grab doesn't do it justice. So this is an Instagram, and a video then is played so you can see the full interview that was generated in She Snaps. And then we've got a very different example, which is inside Kent. So the business is Body Mentors. They're a client of mine, and they've created this wonderful case study on one of their clients that's 79 years old. He's just had a hip replacement, and they specialise in strength training. So it's not your everyday example that you'd expect to see. And they have completely transformed his health and his strength, and he's training several times, I think several times a week, but certainly 3 or 4 times a week with Body Mentors. And they sent it out as a press release, and Inside Kent have now picked it up. So it's a really nice piece. Number 7, be a thought leader. So a lot of us, the term thought leadership and being a thought leader is used a lot, but what do we mean by it? So to be a thought leader, you need to deliver authentic and original content that uses the expertise, the insight and experience of the individual. You need to lead the conversation as well and have a point of view and not be afraid to come forward and communicate it. And thought leadership generates really strong results in terms of the content that is, excuse me, thought leadership generates really strong results in terms of showing up on search engines. So Google really likes it, and it appears consistently and generates organic traffic for your website. And it also helps to improve the number of subscribers you have, if that's an objective, and increase your social media followers as well. But it's a really big investment in terms of time and potentially money if you want to do it properly. So I've been fortunate to be involved in launching big thought leadership programs for some corporate organizations. And who has heard of Richard van der Blom, who follows him on LinkedIn? Excellent. So he is known as the LinkedIn legend. So if LinkedIn is relevant to you, I strongly advise following him. So he is not afraid to be controversial. So he produces some amazing content on LinkedIn in terms of showing you how to be successful on LinkedIn and how to create really strong, engaging posts. And he does that via infographics and videos. He's also seen regular critiquing other individuals on LinkedIn. So picking them up with some of their tips and telling them, no, that's not right. You know, I've ran research amongst some thousands and thousands of people, and I can tell you now that's not right. So he really is seen to be leading the conversation and a true expert in what he does. Then we've got a couple of other examples. Joe Glover, which some of you may have heard of, founder of the Marketing Meetup. So he's very different to Richard, and he comes across as kind of very warm, soft and friendly, and he is highly well connected. So anyone that is anyone in marketing, he has them on his podcast, on his webinars, and then he gives his critique of, well, what does that mean for you? These were my key takeouts of this. This is what it means for you. So he is seen as a thought leader, but in a very different style to Richard. And then we've got Mary Keogh, very different style again. So she is a business-to-business tech marketeer in the States. And I follow all of her posts, and she is extremely insightful. So the reason I wanted to show you her is you're probably thinking, that looks like a really boring post. And if you probably can't see the results underneath it. So she just uses long form posts a few times a week on LinkedIn. I can't remember how many thousands and thousands of followers she has, but substantial. So this post, which is a typical post, has 6,000 likes. It has, I think it's 200 comments and around 200 reposts. So the comments and the reposts is what everyone wants to aim for on LinkedIn. And she does that in the same style. So this is the problem I have at work. This happened, and this happened. This is what I suggested. These were the results. So she just uses that style consistently. And it's really helped for her to build up her follower base and to get attention and be seen as a thought leader. Number 8, harness local SEO. So we all know that SEO is important. So hands up if you currently spend time or invest in SEO. Excellent. So hopefully all of you are going to be convinced after today. So nearly 3/4 of online experiences begin with a search engine. And SEO drives over 1,000% more traffic than social media. And I'm amazed when I meet with businesses just how many of them are putting all their time and focus into social media, but they haven't even thought about their SEO, and particularly their local SEO when their audience is predominantly local people or local businesses. The number one result is 10 times more likely to get a click as well compared to the 10th. So you can see that getting that top position, or at least those top 3 spots, needs to be your number one goal. And it can be extremely hard to do that in some types of businesses, in some sectors as well. But you've got a much better chance if you focus on local SEO, if you've got a local audience, than nationally And I just wanted to say as well, I thought this was an interesting stat. So 90% of web pages get 0 organic traffic from Google. So the point here is you need to make sure that you're creating the right type of content. And if you are creating lots of blogs and lots of videos, that they're fully optimized for search engines like Google. Otherwise, they're just not going to get picked up at all. So you need to make sure that you're using the right keywords and phrases that your audience are searching for online, and that it's written in a way that serves the search engines, and they'll reward you for it. So another really interesting stat here. So 56% of local businesses haven't claimed their Google business profile. So I'm not going to ask you to put your hand up for those that haven't. But if there's one thing that you do today, if you haven't already, please claim that profile. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But the second thing is to optimize it. So a lot of people have claimed it, but they haven't done anything with it. It's just blank. So you need to make sure that you populate it with all the information it requests. It's very easy to do once you've claimed the profile, which admittedly is a bit fiddly, but you need to make sure that you've got the right description and business category. Your opening hours are in there. You can now integrate appointment setting apps like Calendly as well, so people can click on it and arrange an appointment straight with you. You can also use it to upload your images and your products and services and your events as well. So it goes way beyond what people perceive it as, purely just as a, yeah, I'll register my business and I'll leave it. So this is something that you should do once a week, really, and it takes minutes to do. So if you've got a photograph that you've taken, like an event here today, if you've created a new blog post, upload it to Google Business Profile. And you also need to think about, as far as SEO, it is complex. There are lots of different things to think about. You've got on-page SEO, so that is ensuring that your website and all the pages are optimized with the right keywords and phrases that your audience are searching for online. And it's also making sure that it's optimized with things like the right meta description. So most website builders now, most platforms have built-in optimizers. So it makes it really easy for you to do this. And if you're not sure, then Google it so you can understand the right structure and how many characters to use. But this is really important. I'm going to show you a graph in a minute so you can see why. And then we've got technical SEO. Now, I'm not qualified to talk about that at all, but it's ensuring that your website is technically sound, that it doesn't take 30 seconds to load because no one's going to bother. They're just going to go away and they'll never return again. And it's also ensuring all the images are optimized, and there's loads and loads of other things that you need to do, which I'm not going to go into today. And then finally, we've got off-page SEO. So this is looking at backlinks. So some of those things that I talked about earlier, so guest blogging and PR really help to generate high quality backlinks, which is what Google likes to see. And these are the reasons why. I'm not sure if you can see all of this, but I'll just go through a couple of the highlights. So anyone that knows me knows I've been quite good to just include 2 graphs in my presentation today, because I do tend to get carried away with graphs. So the first thing, so that the main criteria, so Google has over 200 different criteria when it comes to all the things that you need to consider with its ranking criteria. But the most important thing is the consistent publication of high quality content. So how do you do that? The easiest way as a small business to do that is through a blog. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, well, no one's going to read a blog on me. Why do I need to write a blog? I can't write anything interesting. So this is the reason why you need to write a blog. It allows you to create something quite simple. They could be bite-sized tips. Perhaps it's just a behind the scenes at an event, but it's that consistent publication of new, fresh content, which Google likes to see. The other thing is backlinks as well, and making sure that those meta tags that I've talked about, that description is in your website. And then on the right-hand side, we've got local SEO. So this is understanding where you appear. So if Tunbridge Wells, for example, is your catchment and the main place that people are from, then you need to make sure that you're using Tunbridge Wells as keywords on your website, in the meta descriptions. But in addition to that, there are other things you can do. So you'll see we've got on-page SEO, which is what I've talked about, ensuring those keywords are displayed in prominent places on your website. We've talked about backlinks and the importance of generating backlinks, and that would be from local organisations. That would really help with your search rankings in Tunbridge Wells. And then we've got, slightly confusing, it used to be known as Google My Business. It changed a year or so ago to Google Business Profile. So you'll see the importance of it in terms of local rankings. You must get that profile set up and optimised and then use it on a regular basis. And then you can see that online reviews appear further down the graph as well. So make sure you're using Google to capture reviews and you're responding to the reviews. And number 9, execute a concise newsletter consistently. So email, and that includes newsletters, is the most cost-effective marketing channel to use, achieving a return on investment of 42 to 1. So for every £1 invested, £42 is generated back. But it's important to note that over 3/4 of that return on investment is generated as a result of personalisation. So that would include, at the very least, including the person's name, and segmentation as well. So if you're sending out a newsletter or an email, at the very, very simplest level, split it into customers and prospects. In an ideal world, you'd go a lot further than that. You'd split it by maybe customer type, market. Are they an active customer? Are they a lapsed customer? So you can really go to town and start thinking about segmentation to improve those open rates. And speaking about open rates, so nearly half of emails are opened based on the subject line alone. So don't just churn out the same subject lines, test them and have a look at your open rates and see how they're performing and which ones are tending to work. So your newsletter needs to be concise, it needs to be frequent, and I would definitely suggest it should be at least monthly. If you research this, you'll see that the optimal amount is actually weekly. But I realise as a small business, that's just probably not possible for most of us, because all we'd be doing is writing all the time and not doing our day-to-day jobs and running the business. And newsletter in terms of the content as well. So there's no right or wrong answer on this. It can include a roundup of your blog posts. It could include the case studies like I've talked about. It can include up and coming events that you're going to or webinars that you're running. And it can include behind the scenes, as well as perhaps some of the more product focus and promotional content as well. So if you've got a special offer or a new product launching, you can include that. And I'm not going to go through all of this. So the presentation, I believe, will be available online. So for those that want to see an example of the ideal newsletter template. So this is one from HubSpot. So some of you may be familiar with HubSpot. So they are quite often my go-to source for marketing information. And it shows you the ideal template structure. And it's a lot simpler than most of us probably believe. So we've got that hero image under our logo, with then a main feature article with three very short and concise articles with a strong call to action. So there's only a one-liner really on each article, and then you click through to it. And I've got 3 very, very different and successful examples of this. So the first one is from Wix, and it adopts that 3-article approach. So you can see there's not very much copy at all. You've just got the image with the headline of the article with a one-liner and then a read on. And then in the middle, we've got an example that's very, very different from WeTransfer, and it's 100% image based as well, and very, very successful. And then the third one is from CNN. We've got 5 things, and it's a roundup of the week of the most talked about and important stories to be aware of, with then lots of important stats that you should be aware of afterwards. Last tip, we're nearly there, maintaining a high performing website. So a lot of people don't realize that they spend a lot of time and investment on creating a website and then maybe rebuilding it a few years later, but they're not maintaining it in between. So half of us judge a business's credibility on the website alone. And people will only spend 10 seconds on your website before leaving if they don't connect with your message. It is without a doubt your most important asset. So you need to spend time on it. And I would suggest that you do this at least once a month. So that doesn't mean re-looking at the navigation, all of the pages and changing it radically. At the very, very least, there should be a new blog post, and you can add new customer testimonials, and you want to expand the content. So that's what the search engines like to see, the expansion of high quality content. So you can do that by creating frequently asked questions, new PDF guides, lots of simple things that you could probably do very, very easily and at no real cost as well. But something else that you can do is a performance audit. So there are lots of free tools that allow you to do this. So some of you may use a digital agency or freelancers to help with your SEO. But I would strongly advise you running regular checks on your own website. So what this does is it gives you a score on your website, and it will break it down into those 3 different areas of SEO and give you a score with recommendations for each. So don't think by looking at it that your website isn't good enough. Everyone's website can be improved. That's the whole point. You need to continually be maintaining it and updating it. And I would suggest looking at sites like Moz, SEMrush, and HubSpot. So they've all got free website checkers that you can use. And there's some reasons here. So I thought this was quite interesting research. The first one shows you the top reasons why people leave a website. And the first one are the load speeds. So if it takes too long for your website to load, then they're just going to leave you as well. They're not going to wait 30 seconds or whatever it is for your website to load. And even more critical when it's on a mobile as well. And then we've got non-responsive website. So if the customer has submitted a question or an inquiry form, or they've gone to click here and it's a guide that was meant to download and nothing's happening, then again, you've just lost them. You've lost the opportunity. And then the third one is bad navigation. And then on the right-hand side, we've got top reasons for redesigning a website. And the first factor is low conversion rates. The second one is high bounce rates. And the third one is poor user experience. So hands up if you know what your website conversion rate is. Excellent. We've got a couple of website experts, so excluding the website experts. So this is something we should all know and be aware of. So what this does is to tell you the amount of people that are taking an action on your website. So an action could be that they have clicked on the subscriber list, so they now are a subscriber to your newsletter. Perhaps they've submitted an inquiry form, or they've clicked on the call button or arranged an appointment with you. So it's calculated as a proportion of the total visitors. And as a general rule, businesses should be achieving around a 3% conversion rate. So you can see that that's probably quite low. And that's just the first part of the whole customer journey, because that doesn't mean they've bought from you. That just means they've taken an action on your website. And then, of course, they go into the whole marketing funnel, which I'm not going to go into today. The second one is your bounce rate. So a bounce rate, for those that aren't aware, are the amount of people that are leaving your website. They can't find what they need and they've hit the back button. They've given up. They can't find it. So on average, you should be achieving around under 40%. Let me know if I'm wrong, the website experts. It does vary from industry to industry and obviously dependent really on your business. But anything higher means that it's potentially there's something wrong with your website and it needs to be addressed. And I've got here an example, and there's lots of these available, but it's worth having these to print them out or save them, have them as a reference so you can then see how your website is structured compared with these templates which show you this is the kind of optimal structure for a homepage. Nearly there now. So to summarize, just going back to that question that I asked right at the beginning, which was, what did you consider your most successful way to get your business notice? So just have a think about the presentation content and all of the tips that I've gone through today. Do you still think that that was your most successful way to get your business notice? Or perhaps, are there other things now that you're missing the opportunity? So you have these amazing accreditations, but no one knows about them, for example. Or perhaps you've won an award, but you haven't told anyone about it. So just a reminder of those 10 tips: be original and stand out, have a consistent brand, build momentum, show the human side, be a thought leader if that's relevant for your business, exploit the power of video, show off your credibility, harness SEO, execute a concise newsletter, maintain a high-performing website. So think about now, what 3 learnings have you taken away from today? And I hope that there's lots of tips here. I realize there's a lot you can do and a lot to take in, but is there something that you can do straight away this week? Is there something that you could do perhaps over the next month that isn't going to take a huge amount of time and that isn't going to cost you any money? Or is there something else that you can think about prioritizing this year that is going to have quite a big impact on your business? So I hope you can see, so investing your time and resources are really important. You need to make sure you're using the right techniques, the right channels, and the right content to get your business noticed. And you need to make sure that you stand out from the crowd. And as I've outlined, there are lots of different ways that you can do that. Don't stop and start activity. Make sure that baseline activity is going on in the background all the time. And I know it's tough. It's really, really hard when there's so much to focus on day to day. You need to humanize as well your brand to build a connection. So think about how you can do that. Can you show your face more regularly? Can you talk about your values, your experiences, why you've set up your business? Exploit the power of SEO. I hope I've demonstrated why it's important. And locally as well, if you work with local people, local businesses, just the impact that you can have. This is a free channel that you can exploit as a small business. Perfect that newsletter as well. You can see the return on investment potential. Be a thought leader if it's relevant. So by following all of these different things, I hope you can see that there's a huge chance here that you can really use lots of different ways to get your business noticed. And sadly, there's not one fits. My brain is one size fits all approach. Every business is really, really unique. So it's not a case of doing this, this, and this, and it's going to lead to this. You need to think about your time, your resources, what budget you have available. So what's going to be right for you? Thank you very much, everyone. Do it. Time for questions. Thank you. Sorry, yes, of course.
I saw quite a few of you trying to take the slides. It's unfortunate given how far away it is. Those are all on the the recording of the, so if you want to go back and look through the slides after, just visit the Westminster's website and there will be a record
On the YouTube channel
and
as
on
well.
the YouTube channel as well.
Thank you. Hi,
Love to talk.
thank you.
I have a question about video. It took me a long time to find the courage to even post on Instagram, let alone putting videos up. But now what's holding me back is not wanting to post something that looks a bit crap. Like, so I'd like to put a video on my website and also post regular stuff on Instagram. Can't afford to get a professional videographer
Yep.
to do it every time. Do you have any tips? What's worth spending money on? Like, is it worth spending money on a professional for a website video, or is Instagram okay to do a selfie video? Like, do you have any tips
Yep.
for that?
So selfie videos, so the examples I've given of James, for example, have a look at his profile, have a look at his videos. So it's quite incredible all the things you can do yourself these days. So I would definitely say practice as well, you know, yourself. So the more that you do these things, the better you'll become. Try and write down what's the purpose of the video? What are the key points that you want to communicate? So get that down on paper before you then start recording, and then record a few different takes, play them back and see what they're like. You can get feedback from other people as well, so that all of those things will really help to improve. As far as videos on your website, then I think that it's worthwhile investing in a professional if it's going to go on your website. But of course, you've got channels, platforms like YouTube as well. If you want to record regular, short, snappy videos, then doing that yourself is absolutely fine. But I would strongly say, as far as budget, have a look at we haven't sort of covered all of the planning side of things today. But I would say, instead of spending money piecemeal, have a look at what money can you afford to spend on marketing, rather than just going ahead with this and that, because all of those things will add up. And then before you know it, you've realised you've run out of budget, but you haven't done this, this and this, and you've got another 6 months to go. So try and work out what you can afford to spend in marketing, and then start getting quotes for things. So then you can start to prioritise. Thank you. Hi.
Thank you so much. Tips were excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, although it's always for me, I don't know about anyone else, completely overwhelming, and it's almost easier to do nothing. So you're right. Just, you know, trying to focus on a few things maybe. But my question related to the standing out with sort of sending out collateral. I'm really interested in that thing you showed us in this video. I come from a corporate background and I run my own business. I used to get people sending me stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you're like, what am I going to do with this? And that's obviously got like a video embedded in it. And I mean, is things like, you know, things being recyclable, or I can imagine people sending that back and going, thank you, I've looked at it, but now can you deal with it? So
Yeah.
have you got any thoughts on that? You know, trying to stand out is great, but sending people stuff doesn't always.
Yes. And I will say, so this is nearly 6 years old. So I think the market has changed massively, you're right, because sustainability is a really, really important thing to think about, especially in terms of direct mail as well. So think about what you can do. Sometimes just a good old-fashioned letter, you know, can work. So it's about taking the time to write to someone. Make sure that you've researched them, you know who they are. You've perhaps looked up their LinkedIn profile. You've really understood what it is they're looking for. You've done your research before. And then just might be some really simple things that go with your message and your brand that you could send to them that would be low cost, that wouldn't be bad for the environment. I don't know what that is at the moment, but yeah, I think depending on your marketing, on your customer base, direct marketing, I think can be really, really powerful. I am a fan of direct marketing. And as I said, even if that is a simple letter. Hi.
Hi. I was just gonna say, I don't know if anyone's used ChatGPT, but if you are struggling to come up with blog content, that might be an idea to have a look at it.
Yeah.
Don't use it as gospel, change it, but it's really useful for ideas.
Yes, no, absolutely. And there's lots of other tools that you can use to get ideas, like Answer the Republic. So that you perhaps you've researched your topic before, but you kind of feel like you've exhausted it, particularly if you've had your business for a while. But it might just breathe a whole kind of new lease of life to things. So yeah, I definitely recommend using AIs and all of the tools at your disposal to help.
Just as a caveat on that, though, I do software, seeing and all of that. Do fact check the responses from any AI. I would say that 50% of the things that I've asked of an AI when I fact check them, I have given them one. So just might give you some great sort of outline ideas, but do fact check the numbers, the content.
Okay. I'm surprised you mentioned this because I know you love analytics. It's actually a really good idea to use Google Analytics to measure what you're doing, the success of those things.
Yeah.
Don't you want
Yes, I have to say I prefer the old Google Analytics, I'm afraid, but Google, I'm sure most of you are aware, Google Analytics changed, was it last spring, summer? So for those, I know I'm still working with businesses at the moment that don't have Google Analytics 4 set up. Do get that set up if you haven't already. So Google Analytics is my go-to source. It is one of the probably the top 5 things I do when I start working with a business. And it's quite incredible. I'm working with a business at the moment who, in fact, they had their business about 10 years ago. It's been dormant for the last 5 years, and we've just gone through all their kind of old Google Analytics data, and it's quite incredible. The information we've managed to glean from it to really understand how long people were spending on the site, what pages were most popular, how was the traffic generated, and it's not perhaps what they thought. And then equally could go on for hours about this. It's worthwhile looking at the bounce rates as well by the different channels, because you may think that social media is perhaps the thing to invest in and it's generating all your traffic, but it might have the highest bounce rate. And quite often organic traffic has the lowest, I said that right, the lowest bounce rate. So it's the most engaged audience because they've actively come across you. So whether they've researched you, they found an article about you, so they're spending a high amount of good quality time on your website and more likely to convert at the end of it. That makes sense.
Natalie,
Yes.
I've got Michelle Line.
Yes.
Somebody just to ask, would you recommend a subscribe pop-up for your website, or is it just mine?
Well, from my perspective, I think that it used to be something that was done, I think perhaps more 10 years ago. These days, I think people do get annoyed. So, I mean, it's very much a personal thing. So I don't want to say do not do that, but I'm not a website expert. I know that there are people here that perhaps want to answer, but I personally would say avoid doing that.
I'd probably use an access intent.
There we go.
Comes up because if it interrupts your reading, that's just really everyone gets that. But if you do a pop-up that triggers when they go to move away from the website, they actually tend to work quite well. That's a second chance.
Is that on the exit? So on exit, and
Exit intent, yeah.
just in case they can't hear you because the mic's.
Oh, thank you. David.
Great presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of the apparently most successful posts on LinkedIn are very long posts from people with very close-up selfies every day. And they appear to be talking about what they had for breakfast. It feels sometimes more Facebook-y like than LinkedIn. Do But is it great PR? Is there any reason why people shouldn't do that? It doesn't feel very businessy often. But is there any limit to what you should and shouldn't do on a platform like that?
Yeah, so it depends what you mean successful as well, and what you want to be. Do you want to be seen as an expert, as an expert in your field? Do you want to be seen as a thought leader? So you probably don't want to be posting pictures of your porridge, you know, every a few times a week. That's not what that customer base expect to see. So I think it's important to also be aware that the number of likes doesn't necessarily translate into those that are engaged, those that visit your website, and those that are going to buy from you. There's a big, big difference. So I think there's a time and place for it. It's important to have variety in your content, but think about how you want to be perceived. Is that eating your breakfast? How you want to be seen? Is that going to help generate business? It might get traction online. It might get lots of likes from all your old colleagues and friends, but might not translate into customers.
I can be heartbroken though, when you put like a photo of your holiday or something, you get like 40 likes, and then you spend like about a whole morning crafting something that
Yes.
of your knowledge to give to people.
Yes, and don't you can never view the success by the number of likes as well, especially on LinkedIn. You've got so many what's called LinkedIn lurkers, so you need to make sure that you don't give up because you haven't got good response in terms of likes. It's quite amazing. Certainly the amount of people that I've reconnected with, that I've lost contact with for 15, even 20 years, that have been following me, and they suddenly phone me out of the blue saying, I want to work with you. We've been, you know, reading your blog posts. The only reason they've been reading them is I've put them on LinkedIn, but they haven't necessarily translated into lots of likes and popular posts on LinkedIn.
In the context of all of this, what sort of correlation have you seen when considering topical issues and posting relating to those issues?
Yes. Yeah, so you need to, we just talked about content mix. So it's really important that we have sort of different pillars of content. So you need to make sure that you have brand content. So it's roughly, it's always a sort of 80-20 rule, I think, for all different types of things. So it should only be 20% selling. I think most of us know that these days, but actually we probably go the other way, where we haven't talked about any of our products or services, and we haven't done a sales post maybe for a year. So you do need to factor that into the mix. So I would definitely say you need to have so many brand posts. Another way to do it is through curated content as well. I'm a massive fan of curated content. So that would be sharing third-party content, credible content. So it might be providing tips, it might be an article from a news site, but then you give your spin on it. So you don't just share it and repost. You always need to put, at the very least, a one-liner, or maybe just summarize some of the key insights. So that really, really helps.
With that though, that because I do that quite a lot. Where I mean, a few months ago, I posted actually something about the post office scandal, which everyone's slightly interested in. But you know, I was talking about it from my point of view as someone who's interested in the way people are treated at work. And of course, it went off to BBC or whatever, wherever I picked up the story. And someone audited my website recently, and they got, audited my marketing and said, "Oh, we haven't posted anything on LinkedIn." I was like, "Well, I'm often doing that," and it's like the platform punishes you because you're potentially sending people off somewhere else.
Yeah, well, so I think you do hear sort of stories like that. So it also could be dependent on, I don't know, the hashtags you're using, or are there any banned words or terms that are sort of anything kind of trending. Sometimes there are strange cases, and I can't sort of talk on behalf of LinkedIn. I'm not sure what the official policy is. So I would say, obviously, think about what you're posting and the language you're using as well. It goes without saying. But there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't share third-party content.
Something that potentially takes the LinkedIn people off somewhere else isn't a problem.
Yeah, well, the algorithm doesn't like it. So so you can include the links in the comments. That's what I do. But sometimes I don't. If you want to see that headline article and the visual to pull through, sometimes it's a trade-off. So I would say mix it up. So kind of try it both ways, really. But you're right, it doesn't like you going off the. So if you've written a blog post, don't just include a link to your blog post in the main body of the post. It doesn't like it. You should include it in the comments. So it just means it's made it even harder for us to share our own content on LinkedIn. So you need to be creative and think about, okay, well, how do I promote this new blog post? So you need to potentially create new visuals to do that.